Grandma's Kitchen.
There's a fiddle tune and a wooden spoon while she's stirring and a-singing. There's friends leaving or family landing, and the phone's usually ringing. No matter who you are or what you've done, everything's forgiven.
Thank God. Thank
In
God.
Grandma's kitchen. And ain't it good to be in Grandma's kitchen?
Grandma's Kitchen.
Hi, how is everyone today? This is Mary Janet, and thank you so much for joining me on this day. And before I start, it's, as many of you know, it's been a pretty tough week here in Nova Scotia for all of the families, 22 tragically taken, and today I'm wearing red, my apron of course, but my sweater, I'm wearing red today for all of those people, but especially for the RCMP officer whose life was taken as well. And it just goes to show you that you just never know, to make the best of your life as you go on every day. And we just have to put one foot in front of the other and go forward and live our lives. And thanks to so many who have reached out just to me as a Nova Scotian and as a fellow Nova Scotian for some, we've all been hurting, and it's a sad time. But today, for the next little while, we're just going to enjoy doing something homegrown and something old-fashioned and keep our minds off what's been happening lately. So we're going to make crisp molasses cookies, and they are just that. They are crisp molasses cookies. So this recipe, I mention my mother-in-law Marie so often because she was just, as you well know, she was just a wonderful, wonderful woman. And she had these cookies. There was just an endless pit of these crisp molasses cookies every time I would go there, and she would always have the teapot on and would have a cookie and tea. And we called them dunkers because they're hard cookies, and they're great split in half and dipped in hot tea or a nice cold glass of milk. So the first thing that I'm going to do, I want you to make sure your hands are nice and clean. I'm going to go wash my hands right now, and I want you to turn your oven on 375, and as well, pre-measure one thing. Pre-measure 2 cups of flour in a bowl like this, okay? And we'll get to that later. So be right back. All right, how's everybody doing? I can't even see the comments because I'm doing this at the table and it's on the other side of the table, and these are reading glasses, they can't reach out that far. So all of the children are out there, everybody's doing something, and they're gonna answer any questions that you may have put up on the live feed, and telling me that everything is all set to go. Okay. Just checking, make sure everything is okay here. Okay, I think we're good to go. All right, gonna start the recipe with 3/4 cup of shortening. So everybody, I'm gonna bake it right along with you, except this is pre-measured. So 3/4 cups of shortening. All right, so is everybody at this point? 3/4 cups of shortening, and just cream the shortening, squash it down. That seems to be just perfect. Now you're going to add 1 cup of sugar. I have 2 half-cup measures here, so 1 cup. And just mix that with the shortening. Perfect. Now, so you've got a cup of sugar and 3/4 cups of shortening here. We're going to need an egg. I'm going to go get mine out of the fridge. Just drop that in there. And at this time, don't bother stirring that. We're going to put the molasses in now. So I have my Crosby's molasses, and I have my 1/4 cup measure. And I always do this, so I'm just going to do it with you too. I hate how the molasses sticks to the sides of everything when I'm measuring it out, so I just use a little spray. We won't hurt the recipe. And just spray like that and fill it. Sticky. A nice even 1/4 cup, okay? So I love the smell of molasses. So really, it's pretty nice and clean when you use that little trick. You know, I was talking to an old boss of mine just this past week, and his name is Edgar Chesson. Hi, Edgar, if you're watching. But Edgar was telling me about back in the days of the Depression. I don't even know when that was, the years, whatever. But molasses was just a real thing to have, because it was one of the staples of the people. You can, I hope you're all stirring this, and. So the farmers, they would mix the molasses with the oats and whatever else that they gave the cattle, and so the farmers could get it more easily. And they, at that time, they kind of used the same molasses as we use for cooking. So they would order extra because they were allowed to have it, and the households would, anybody who had extra molasses or whatever would share it with the women who needed it for cooking. Because we don't know, you know, how lucky we are. We're I hope we're not going to be in a depression. But anyway, I did not know that. And that was a big house back in the day. Okay, that's nicely mixed. Can you see that? Is yours just like that? Okay. So that's all there is to that part. And now it's just the dry ingredients, okay? So you pre-measured 2 cups of flour. So put your flour in. You're gonna put everything in at the same time. 1 teaspoon of salt. 1 teaspoon. You can measure. I have a very good idea what a teaspoon is. So I always measure it in the palm of my hand. And baking powder, 2 teaspoons. I always measure the baking powder. So 1 and 2. And now you're going to need the 3 spices that I gave you the direction to make sure you have. So we're going to put 1 teaspoon each of cinnamon, cloves, and ginger, okay? So this is my cinnamon. I have my Falcha CD on from the Interpretive Center in Zurich, all the airs and waltzes that I absolutely love. It's just it's that kind of a day. Beautiful. Okay, this is my ginger. Oh, that's so good. Love the smell of these spices. And cloves. One teaspoon of cloves. Cloves are strong, and some people may like less of that, but I just put the whole thing in because that's how my mother-in-law gave me the recipe. So stick to that, and the cookies are so good. Okay. Now, I'm just going to mix that, the top part kind of around before I start mixing it through the whole batter. But if you get a chance, before you bake that, I put some white sugar in a little dish here just to have on the side. We'll use it for dipping the batter in after, but just know that we're going to have to do that, okay? So now just mix your batter up really good. I hope you all have your oven preheating to 375. And I have my cookie sheets already with parchment paper on it. You do what you like best, how you want to do that. I just love parchment paper. And you know, parchment paper can be used for so many things. It's so great to put in any dish when you're baking, especially meats. You know how when you're cooking like chicken breasts and you have maybe a coating on it and it sticks to the pan and you have to soak it. Well, if you just put it on parchment paper, you don't have to worry. And it's really a good idea when you use parchment paper to cut what you need, but then fold all the ends so that the parchment paper is flat in your pan. And I'll just show you what I did. This is what I mean by flatten your pan. So I folded over a crease there. The reason for that is, say if you were making the cinnamon rolls, like many of you have done, if you it's a 425 degree oven for when I cook it in my stove. And the ends of the parchment paper will be scorched. They don't get scorched if you fold it under. And parchment paper really has the highest temperature that it really should be used in your oven is, at least the pack I have, it's 420 degrees. So you wouldn't use it for anything other than that. Okay, mine is nice and mixed like that. Is yours like that? Can you see that? Okay. And that's really, this is going to be a short one. This is all there is. Okay. Just checking, make sure my kids aren't texting me. Somebody just did. Okay. I think we're okay. And you end up with a nice big ball of dough, okay? So I'm going to keep it in my bowl here. I'm going to take my cookie sheet over, so I hope you have your cookie sheet already. Now, you're going to take a ball. I have to use similar to like a ping pong ball size, you know, like that. And you're going to roll it around. Now, as you're rolling it around, sometimes you can feel it, you know, it's kind of separating in the middle. If you push hard enough and then roll it, that will disappear. And you roll it just like a ball, like that. And your little thing of sugar, you're going to dip it in the sugar, just like that. And then sugar side up, you're going to put it on your cookie sheet. Okay? Continue doing that until you have 12 on your sheet. Okay? And then we're going to squash it down with a fork. This recipe probably makes around 2 dozen or maybe a couple more. I cannot tell you how many times I've made this recipe. It's so quick and it's so easy and it smells so good. And when you take them out of the oven and you're just leaving them on the pan to cool, I just leave them on the pan so that they kind of just settle down, you know. Otherwise, if you take them off too soon and you put them on a cookie rack, it'll take the mark of the cookie rack because it's still just trying to form, right? There now. I got a lot of requests, well, not a lot, but a few requests after I had announced that we're going to make the molasses cookies. So many people were looking for the Fat Archie cookie recipe. Of course, I only make what I like and what the kids like and the grandkids like. I was never a fan of the soft, big, soft molasses cookie. Never really liked it. And the Fat Archie, I gave it to a few people because I have it. There's a local cookbook here, and was a fine lady in there that was pretty good at making Fat Archie cookies. And so I gave that recipe to a couple of people. So that's your preference. And she had it on there that you could drop it by spoonfuls on your cookie sheet. But if you wanted to, you might add a tiny little bit more flour and roll it out and cut them like big like that. That's up to you. All right, so there's my cookies. And I'm going to take a fork. You can make whatever design you want. You can just, you know, you can push it down with the palm of your hand if you don't want the fork mark on it, and just push it down until it's flat. Or you can just do what I do. I just do one push down on each one. This is one thing that the kids would like to do. If there's any young people cooking today, I hope you are cooking with mom and dad. And you can push down your own design, and you can crisscross as well if you like it like that. I'm just used to doing it this way. It's easier. So there, that's what it looks like. I'm going to put mine in the oven now, and I'm going to time it for about 11 minutes in my oven. So we'll just watch it. It's hard to tell with the color of the molasses cookie, but they get a tiny bit brown that you can see, okay? So give this a go. I'm going to put this in the oven. And I have another cookie sheet ready here, so I'm just going to go and form those. Oh, I'm going to put my kettle on. have to have tea when these are all cooked. You know, when you live in a small town, we're not even a town. I guess we're community. I don't even know if we're village status. I'm not even sure. I should know that, but I don't. Okay, can't see you, Tammy. This is not coming up for me. I know Tammy is there. She is. Okay, so I'm just going to review the recipe. So you've got 3/4 cups of shortening. Mix that up, add a cup of sugar, and then you're going to add an egg and 1/4 cup of molasses. Mix that all up, add 2 cups of flour, a teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and then you've got a teaspoon each of cloves, ginger, and cinnamon. Now, I have made these plenty times when I was missing one of those spices, but you know what? They are just fine. As long as you have a couple of them, you're fine. Say the cloves is a strong one. If you don't want that, that's fine. The cookies, they're going to be perfect no matter what. Okay. So that's 2 dozen cookies in this pan, with this pan and what's in the oven. And there's still some dough left. I'm going to leave the rest of it. I'll make them after. And I'll put these down with a fork. And I'll do the rest of them later, so I have this one ready to go. I hope you're all at the same point as I am. We have the sun shining here today. For 2 days in a row, we have had the sun and hope of spring. It's almost at the end of April. Then I look at the weather forecast and they're saying there's going to be snow coming tonight. I can't believe that. So it's kind of, you just have to go with it. We could be somewhere where there's big hurricanes or tornadoes. We're in a pretty safe spot here. Okay, I'm just going to put this over on the counter. There you are. I can see you all now. So I'm going to take you with me. Hi, Sharon Woodstock from Ontario. How are you doing? I'm going to sit you down here with me. You know, I thought I had this camera thing all figured out. I tested it with my son sideways. It was just perfect. No. At the last minute, it didn't work. So you got me in portrait style instead of landscape. But it's okay. 95 degrees Fahrenheit there in Santa Clarita. Whoa, that is hot. Oh. you guys, you're pretty special. You're pretty special to me, I'll tell you. This just has given me a new life. Just enjoying reading the messages and trying to reply to all the inbox messages, even though I have help sometimes. Thank God the kids are able to help, because I just, I'm so amazed. And hi, Kevin Curry. Somebody saying my hair is the cutest. Oh my God. I took the scissor to it myself because it was getting in my eyes, and you don't want to see the mistakes. Anyway, it is what it is. Okay, the kettle boiled. I'm going to go put the tea on, and then we're going to have a little visit, okay? Just 1 second. Okay, I have about 5 minutes left in my my cookies. So, I have a few things I'd like to visit with you about, because I want to have somebody to talk to and share with. Is that okay? Okay. And this past week, aside from all of the other stuff that's been going on, I wanted to say a big thank you to so many of you, because I mentioned Heather Down to you, who is from Ontario and is an author and is publishing a book by the end of May. And she describes the book as something similar to, as Chicken Soup for the Soul, inspiring stories that came out of this COVID-19 at that time. And I asked you last week to maybe reach out to her, because she had interviewed me about Tunes and Wooden Spoons and, people baking with me and just deviating from the regular world that they're in and just kind of getting away from the whole outside world and the media and all of that. And there's a comfort in that. And so anyway, you did that. So many of you reached out to her and sent her beautiful emails. And she told me about them. And she's, I think, pretty well finished my little part in that whole book. So I'll be certain to put that out to all of you guys when I know that it's ready, but it won't be for a while. Anyway, and the other thing I wanted to say, I want to say a big, big, big hello to Kitty. Hi, Kitty. If you are watching, I'll tell you who this special person is. On one day last week, I think it was Thursday or was it Friday? I think it was Friday. I had an online interview for a show that Lars Sudbury were doing with some of their core members. And so Kitty was there, and she had baked the cinnamon rolls, and she was just so excited to meet me as I was to meet her. And they watch all the time, and she was just a sweetheart, and she was singing at the end. She sang Amazing Grace for Nova Scotia, and she has a beautiful voice, and it was just so nice. So if you're watching today, Kitty, I just love you, and thank you so much for speaking with me on that little interview. It was very special. And another thing that's kind of exciting that's happening this week, or anybody here and any of you are out there in Canada, CTV in the morning on Your Morning, it's called, out of Toronto. It's a national show in the morning. I think it starts at maybe 7 a.m. and I don't know when it airs everywhere, but it's the show that Ben Mulroney is on and with two gals. So I am going to be talking to Ben Mulroney about this cinnamon rolls and this whole little movement that has started with the home baking. So that's pretty special. So that's supposed to be Tuesday morning if nothing changes. That's, you know, so maybe we'll have a little listen or watch on CTV on Tuesday morning. I think the cookies are ready. My timer is beeping. God bless the timers, because if I didn't have it, I'd be burning everything. Can you see them? Oh my God, they smell so good. So I'm just gonna put them on the cooling rack for a few minutes before I get my tea, okay? And so I put them on the cooling rack, and I want to shout out again to Sonia Boyd and Antigonish, the Pampered Chef lady. She's so nice, and she sent me another little package of nice things and utensils. So pretty special people out there. So thank you, Sonia, very much. But anyway, okay, we talked about CTV. I have a few notes here to remind me what I was going to tell you. But yeah, that's pretty exciting with the morning show there. I'm very, very happy with that. And you know what? Just have to go with the flow and see what happens. But another exciting thing that's happened with all of these children that we have, they're all taking an active role in Grandma's venture here. So we've got, you know, the Facebook page, we have Instagram, we have Twitter, we have YouTube, and they're all, of course, under Tunes and Wooden Spoons, and all the recipes are there. But one more thing that we're doing is a website, and it's of course tunesandwoodenspoons.com, but it's not ready yet. It could be ready in the next day or so. But another exciting part of that whole thing, of course, the recipes will be on there in PDF format so that you'll be able to print them as we go through every week. And that's what I really wanted, because there were so many people that weren't finding the recipes, couldn't see them, whatever, and this will make it easier for you. But that's not to say that down the road we might just have a cookbook that you can purchase, but there is something that you might be able to purchase. So you know this lovely apron that I wear, made by Brenna, from Miss Brenna, and you can just Google Miss Brenna and you'll find her website, and it's ilovecapebreton.ca. So with Brenna's help and with my niece Margie Beaton's help with artwork and everybody, they've developed a logo, and it's nice big, like a cup of tea, and it says Tunes and Wooden Spoons. So we're going to be selling aprons. And if we don't have the whole store part set up just yet, but it's a red apron. It's going to be the same as this. And I mean, Brenna, still order for Brenna if you want the Cape Breton thing. Just, I love that girl and all her work that she's put into her hoodies, and just so many items and hats. Just a great gal. But she's helping me with my own little apron that's going to say Tunes and Wooden Spoons on it, with a teacup and some music notes and a wooden spoon and all of that stuff. It's just so cute. And so we're going to have that for sale. But not sure of all the details exactly just yet. And they won't be here for another 2 to 3 weeks. And but if you're interested for now, say if you're interested in one of the aprons, I only ordered, I didn't know if people would be, many would be interested, but we ordered a few. And if you just want to send an email to tunesandwoodenspoons@gmail.com and express your interest, I'll put you on that in a spreadsheet, and we'll get back to you when we know all the details. They'll be selling for $25 plus shipping and handling. Maybe not within Canada, $5 will cover that. But a portion of it is going to go to our son Mitchell. Has this bursary that he started at our local school, and our son Mitchell, of course, so musically inclined, and remember was in Canadian Idol, and he just wanted to give back to the community in some way. So he started this bursary, and last year was the first bursary that was given out, and it ended up he had enough money in from his open mic nights here in Port Hood at the Clove Hitch Bar and Bistro right here in Port Hood. He saved all of those with the manager, all of that money, and it was, some money was given by the Clove Hitch as well as Long and McQuaid and the music company to help towards this bursary. So we're able to give out two $1,000 bursaries to two wonderfully talented young men at the high school. And I think they each got, maybe both of them got a new guitar, and one of them's in a band. And see, the year before last, Mitchell played all that summer at the open mics on Friday nights at the Clove Hitch Bar and Bistro, and he had a tip jar, but every bit of the money in there was kept by the manager, and it was to go towards this bursary. And so then last summer, he's still doing it every Friday night and going towards this year's bursary. But now this summer, it doesn't look like he's going to be able to make that work, because I don't think there'll be many open mics unless we get a big change in our COVID-19 status. And so a portion of the proceeds of this apron sales I'm going to give that to Mitchell to put in that little pot, in the hope that we want to keep this going. We want to encourage music wherever possible. So that's pretty nice. Okay, I put my other pan of cookies in, and they're just about done. So I'm going to go pour my tea, and we'll have our last little visit and a little taste test. Okay, just hold on a second. So I've got 4 more minutes in that next batch. So today's kind of a mug kind of day. You know how you want to take a mug and just hold on to it. And this is my, of course, my Cape Breton mug made by Colton McDonnell, former step dance student of mine, and just a beautiful person working in the healthcare system and in Nova Scotia. And I have a couple of styles of his mug, and we gave one of these to every one of the kids one Christmas there, a couple of Christmases ago, and it's a treasure to them. And they love their coffee, and I love my tea. So I'm just gonna have a little sip of tea. It's so nice and hot. I was doing so much talking that the tea almost boiled, and that would be a tragedy if you had boiled tea. My papa, who raised me, we had a coal wood stove back in the day, going back in 50s or 60s. The teapot was always on the stove. And it was okay if it boiled. And those are the days of loose tea. And we're kind of coming back to that. Some people kind of prefer that as well. But of course, I'm a tea bag person, and I love my King Cole tea from Sussex, New Brunswick. Love it. Having a little cup, little piece. We call it a little strupak. A strupak of tea. That's a little Gaelic expression. I don't know, I guess it's a little sip. I don't know what strupak means, but I was raised with parents, or they raised me. They weren't my real parents, but they were, their first language was Gaelic, and they had all of these little sayings that I would pick up on, right? Anyway, this is delicious. Okay, the taste test. Now, they're not that crisp and hard right now because they're still kind of warm, but they're good. So I dare not dunk this one. But when they're nice and hard, they dunk really good, because tomorrow they'll be cracky hard, like a ginger snap almost, but thicker. Oh, I think of my mother-in-law every time I make these. Because they're called, in my recipe, wherever it is, I always go by my recipe. It's Port Hood Grandma, that was her. I was born in Mabu, and I moved to Port Hood, just 10 kilometers in the difference. So our kids grew up with Mabu Grandma and Port Hood Grandma. So this was Port Hood Grandma. Anyway, okay, I gotta get that other batch of cookies out. And I still have a couple of things to tell you about. Okay, now, I just want to tell you a little exciting news that we're so excited about. Our daughter, one of our identical twins, Kelly, she doesn't know I'm saying this. Hi, Kelly, I'm sure she's watching. She's due to have her first baby this coming Friday, and we're so excited. Like I said, we had 7 children: Tammy, Brennan, Margie, Gordy. And when Gordy was 15 months old, we welcomed identical twin girls into the house. And then 5 years later, we welcomed the baby, Mitchell. And, Tammy, Brennan, Margie, Gordy, they were, just like normal kids, easy to go and whatever. And then the twins came along. And when they got motoring, there was no stopping them. Just ask my neighbors, Leo and Cassie. Honest to God, they'd run down the road, naked as a jaybird, 2 years old. They'd strip off their clothes and run down the road, and you'd run, catch them. And we're on a kind of a back rural road, so it was not like there was traffic. Don't think I'm that bad a parent. But I'll just tell you one funny story of them growing up. They were always challenging us. So one Sunday morning, we were going to church on Sunday morning, and trying to get all 7 of them out was just a chore sometimes. So I don't know how old they were. Probably 5. I'm going to say 5, around that, 4, 5, or 6, somewhere around there. And Kelly dug her feet in, and she said, "No, I don't want to go." She wanted to stay home and play or whatever. And my husband said what you're probably not supposed to say. He said, "If you don't go to church with us, God is going to punish you." Anyway, as it went along, she went to church with all of us, and we went to church, and we came back home from church, and of course, we were making dinner, I guess. We must have been making dinner, and of course, you just scooted all the kids outside to play. So in our yard, we have lots of trees. We have one big tree. It's a big old chestnut tree. So they were all out there playing, and all of a sudden we heard the crying. So run out, and Krista, the Kelly's twin, had fallen out of the tree, and it was very obvious that she had broken her wrist. So I stayed home with the kids, and Cecil took them to the hospital. On the way to the hospital, in tears, Krista was in tears, and she said, crying, "Do you think God got us mixed up and punished the wrong twin?" Oh my God, I love that. I love that little story. I remember that so well when Cecil came home and told me that, and because so many people could not tell them apart, and they figured that God couldn't either because he couldn't tell them apart, so he might punish Krista instead. But anyway, there's so many good stories and so many little things that happened when the kids were growing up. And I remember one last story. Of course, the wooden spoons, right? The wooden spoons were used to threaten. And if you don't be good, by God, you know what's going to happen. And so of course, I come from a time when you gave them a little crack on the rear end if they weren't good. You can't do that now. But anyway, I remember threatening them with the wooden spoon this one day, and they were fighting, chasing one another all over the house, and I took the wooden spoon and I cracked it on the table to tell them to be good. And they were all crying and mad at one another and all chasing. And when I cracked the table, the wooden spoon went in pieces everywhere. And the giggle, and that was the end of everybody being mad and the end of me being mad too. But that's what life was like in a house full of little ones, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. I'd like to go back and be maybe a better mom, but anyway, it was what it was, and it is what it is. Okay, I'm going to sign off now. I hope I didn't forget to tell you something that I should have. All the recipe should be up on the Facebook page now and on Instagram. But 3/4 cups of shortening and a cup of sugar and an egg and 1/4 cup of molasses, 2 cups of sugar, 2 cups of flour, and 2 teaspoons of baking powder, a teaspoon of salt, and a teaspoon of each of the 3 spices: cinnamon, cloves, and ginger. 375 for 11 minutes in my oven. So enjoy the day and enjoy the week. Hope you all have a good week. And we're going to be making a nice little special treat next Sunday, a little kind of a dessert. They're called cream cheese tarts. And you'll need cream cheese, and you'll need a package of Dream Whip, not Cool Whip, Dream Whip, and sugar. And you'll need those little tarts, muffin-sized tarts that you buy in the freezer off your grocery store. So the ingredients will be going up very soon, plus a picture of what it is that you're going to to make. So see you next Sunday. Thanks again for sticking with me, and I don't know what I'd do without you now. I just love looking forward to Sundays and having a little visit with you. Take care. Love you all. Love one another.